question? Question time.
Earlier, Phil began to identify programming resources he would prioritise in the primary school. I'm coming from a small rural primary school with limited provision, and I'd really like to know what one or two key elements the expert panel would like to see in a small primary school delivering the.
So where would you focus? What do you think the priority is to go for?
I think you need to be looking at Scratch, particularly if you haven't introduced Scratch at all. Try and get your Key Stage 2 teachers trained up on Scratch primarily. I don't know what you think about Key Stage 1.
There's a lot of opportunity for unloaded computing as well, computational thinking, so working through the flow charts, working through the precise instructions, getting them to act out, role play, that kind of thing, before you even get to computing.
For Key Stage 1, I would like to see some kind of programmable toy, something like we've got for Roman 2. You don't need huge amounts of them, because I think children should be collaborating. So you're not thinking like, let's go and get one in. You should have a group of children working in. So I'd have some of them, and I'd have some of the pre-Lego type stuff, like a focus on Bebop or Terry the Turtle or To Go, one of those. But quite often I think schools already have those kind of things. So it's probably about using what you've already got.
Just to pick up on what Phil made earlier as well, kind of talking about pedagogy on all of these, is also making sure that the challenge is, there's high expectations, so that pupils are getting stuck in the challenges you're setting them, so they are debugging.
Yeah, okay. I agree with the expert panel.
All right, so we had 4 things to concentrate on there. Sort of Scratch, Unplugged, Bebop's programmable toys, and sort of nice, some emphasis on the pedagogy. Is 4 too many things? Do I need to kind of get them to whittle it down a bit, or are you happy with that answer?
I'm very happy with that.
Okay.
I'd be interested in your thoughts.
My thoughts. I'm not sure I have anything that's really useful to offer in that stage. I mean, my thoughts are really from someone who's teaching at the sort of the other end of the spectrum and has watched my own kids go through it. We've got what computer scientists call the cold start problem. You don't have a nice full pipeline of students having learned things. We're all starting from cold now. What would you recommend in this situation?
Yeah, I would actually, I sort of covered this a little bit in the leadership bit I did. I would actually recommend starting everybody at the same sort of point, especially with something like Scratch. The analogy for me is that actually, if they don't have a number system, how can they do addition, subtraction, and all the other bits and pieces? So I would start everybody. A project though that I did in Year 6 might only take 45 minutes, and an early Scratch sort of program or module 2, and it might take 3 weeks in Year 2. But I would start everybody at the same. And actually, that's a really good way of training your staff as well. Start everybody training somebody in that sort of, everybody does something in a staff meeting, let's go out and propagate this, and we'll have a go in Year 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and come back 5 weeks later and do another module, which takes it up a little bit. Anyway, Emma.
So how nice that was for everybody learning together. And I think that is the thing, isn't it? That you just need to have the confidence to say to the children, actually, we're not experts about this, we're learning with you, and let's go on this learning together. And that's not that the best kind of teaching.
It is. I totally agree.
I completely agree with that. I add a couple of things. If we sort of take a learning challenge approach, then if you make those learning challenges quite open, then that means that pupils that pick this up pretty quickly aren't going to be held back and they can really run with it. Again, you can support the people who acquire it. And you mentioned about the learning with the children as well. And you will get some children that you introduce Scratch to on Thursday, make a simple game, and they come back after on Monday and I've recreated Sonic. Like, where are we going next, right? So, and it's about using that expertise to use that to get them into class.
Yeah, we actually did this in our school. We all started at the same point, following CPD session, and it was fantastic because the children in the upper Key Stage 2 did run away with it. They did really push the envelope, and they were teaching each other, and the teacher was sort of hanging on with their fingernails, but it was sort of just right for the lower Key Stage, and it did move at a different pace, but starting off at the same point didn't really pose any problems, and they all kind of reached a really good level by the time we got to the end.
I mean, I agree as well, you know, that everybody to start at the same level, but I mean, in my year 5 class, about half the class went off at the weekend, and set up their own account, and then they're on it every night and create things, Skyping each other and talking. You're always going to get children who push themselves that a little bit further. But I think the other thing is about the teachers, what I found with teachers of where I am in Stockport, they feel like they need to know more than the children, and actually you don't at all. You know, the children, you can learn with the children, and the children a lot of time will know more than you do. So just to remember that when you're teaching. Right.
I think that's totally enough for you with that. And actually, if you think you're going to be the expert for everything, actually this is probably not for you. Okay, because some of the little kids will leave you behind, and that's great. But actually, just celebrate that. What other areas of the curriculum can the kids do that? Not many, actually.
And we'd like to encourage you as well. You know, I think you're never going to be fully ready. You're never going to have all of that knowledge. You're never going to have all of the resources to feel like you're ready. And it is just taking that first step and taking that risk. And even if it's just taking something you've seen today and trying it out with the class, even if you think, well, we haven't done this yet, we haven't done those steps, try it out, take the first steps, and you'll learn as quickly as they will.
Question over there.
Maybe a question for you, in our school we have Key Stage 3, Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 2. Are you going to be running, I found this really valuable today, are you going to be running something similar to Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4?
So we have, as part of the CAS activities that we're doing, we do have things going on in Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4.
Yeah,
last year, did you come last year to the workshop?
No.
We had a joint workshop which was both Key Stage 1, 2 and 3 and 4. But this year, CAS decided to split off and focus on the primary sector. So we have a regular programme of CPD activities.
I go onto the website, but in this area there doesn't seem to be anything for Key Stage 3.
Do you know, I think you're probably right. I think what's happened is we've not been particularly brilliant at actually posting some of the stuff onto the CAS site for the hubs, but some stuff has gone on. So I apologise for that.
I go on every week because I'm desperate for something.
Okay. Is Rob here? Rob Blair? We do have some dates for activities that are happening. We have a Dan Gardner's master teacher who's based at Perrins, and he will be doing a number of activities after Easter. So we will make sure that we send information about that out when we email everyone again. And we'll get him to put it on make sure it's on the CAS website.
You get emailed about new events and stuff, and I go on and check on the
Right.
Mac because it's easiest on the Mac.
Okay.
And it's sort of it's happening all over the country, but not in our area.
Yeah. So,
I'm sorry you missed those.
yes. Sorry about that.
I think we could do that.
Okay. Question here.
Sorry, this is reverting back to the very first question. I'm a Key Stage 1 teacher, but I'm ICT manager, so I'm had a look at Key Stage 2 as well, which I'm not particularly in favour of. Love what's in the Scratch today. But I was curious to know whether we still need to be looking at Logo as well as doing Scratch. I'm just worried about training all the staff in Logo and Scratch, or whether for the time being Scratch will actually cover what we require.
Did everyone hear that? Yeah?
It does Scratch can cover what you need to do in September. I mean, if you want to introduce logo, so further along the line you can, and there's other sort of programs you can introduce. Kudo. And I did a pilot, just focus on Scratch. It works, it covers all the objectives. Yeah, you don't need to worry. And then maybe next year stop worrying about it, I would say.
Yeah, I really agree with that. From the perspective, as you said, the ICT coordinator, you've got to think about staff training as well. You need to focus that, and you can focus it on scratch rather than going to board to start with, and then look at going on the journey and introducing different programs a little bit later on.
All I would say is if you're already using Logo as well, there's then nothing wrong with them continuing that, because there are lots of schools that have used that for a very long time. That's a really good basis. I think it can provide a really nice transition from those kind of terms of that programme on up, but there is no requirement to teach a particular language, and I would say pick one to start with from scratch.
No, I totally agree. If you've got a block that's already been used and it's already been taught, then don't get rid of it. But actually, you know, probably Scratch is probably the best starter.
Can you do Logo in Scratch?
You can do some aspects of Logo in Scratch, yeah. Personally, and this is just me, I like the Logo in Logo, but that's me. But you can, Scratch does have Logo blocks and everything else as well. But that's basically my intention.
Yes.
Can I ask, is there a reliable way of getting Scratch to work on iPads?
There isn't. And it's a really difficult one because people sometimes say that there are versions like Snap. Is it Snap?
I think it's Snap.
Yeah. Which works on the iPad, but if you've ever tried it on an iPad, it's really pretty horrible experience. So, you know, there isn't really anything. There is Hopscotch, which is probably the nearest thing to Scratch, but I would say it's not really as well developed or designed, or you know.
They are saying that it's in development for iPads.
Yeah,
but there's no
the Scratch
come out as an app, or as a probably
I'd imagine as an app.
Scratch Junior is much closer to coming out on an iPad. And Scratch Junior, I've seen some mock-ups from in the thing, and that looks quite interesting. But it doesn't have the full range of stuff you push into top end of Key Stage 2 in my view looks via a video.
What was your reason for wanting it on the iPads? Is it because you've got loads of iPads and not very many?
Yeah, we've invested in iPads, and we've got some aging sort of laptops that we're sort of moving along.
Have you thought about Raspberry Pi? The Scratch works absolutely fine. We've got Raspberry Pi in the school, and you know, about 10 of them, and the Scratch works fine.
We've got all the monitors and all the cases.
We just used old monitors, yeah, that we've got VGA monitors. So, and you can buy monitors for about like £30, but
It's a space and focus in there, so
I know, I'm open plan, I know. But you could put them in the ICT suite. You could, I don't know what kind of monitors you've got. If you've got HDMI monitors or VGA ones, some secondary schools just, you know, put their Raspberry Pi and plug it in. I don't know, support.
That help a little
No.
bit.
it's what I suspect.
Yes.
It's one of the reasons we tend to say. I mean, I love the iPads myself. In fact, one of the first schools in Hampshire to get iPod touches and stuff. But that whole thing of having a variety of devices was actually quite a good thing in the new curriculum. And if you're in a situation where you're choosing, keep a variety of devices. It'll make your life easier.
So, can I extend that question and say, if you are in a situation where you're depending on iPads, what is available for people in this kind of space?
And programming.
Programming.
Well, I've just run the session on Key Stage 1 program that I could talk about. You know, there's not a lot Key Stage 2 wise in terms of programming for the iPads. Unfortunately, like I said, the Hopscotch. I think most of you have probably been to that. There's Bebot, Daisy the Dino, Cargo Bot, Alex, Cato's Hike, and Codable, like sort of 6 main ones if you want to use it in Key Stage 1. And actually, that can go into sort of the A3 as well. And like that. Yeah, so like that one. But nothing really Key Stage 2, and I haven't spent a lot of time with it.
That will be soon.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, whether it be by September. Yes, but it's very, programming on the iPad can be very frustrating depending on exactly what you want, and even doing Python, sort of trying to find the right. Anyway, thank you very much. Yes, another question.
About tablets, really. We've got Windows tablets, and obviously it's updated regarding Saw Bbox. I haven't found that for Windows tablets. I'm struggling to find anything to use on them, for like Stage 1 especially. I wonder if you knew of anything that's out there, or anyone knows anything to use.
So, can we just ask, when you say Windows, these are Windows 8 tablets, not the Surface or
no, not Android. They're not Android, not iPads. They're Windows tablets.
So do they download apps?
Yeah, the big app store. I'm searching, I can't find anything that would do programming like the Bbox. Bbox is not on that was Android or iPad, but not the Windows tablets.
If you look at those 6 eyes that I said, I mean, you might want to have a look at those. They're none of them.
I tried Scratch 2 on there.
Haven't tried Scratch 2, no.
That's browser.
Yeah, so Scratch is one, it's just a nice one to keep it one, like, move the Bbox around, move the game.
Yeah.
You can program it.
I've not got a Windows tablet, but it might be worth looking at whether Lightbot's on there, because that definitely is on my Android, and very few apps are on Android. And certainly after the Arab code stuff, Lightbot was used within that.
We've done the arrow code
Yeah.
on our boards and on the tablet Dropbox.
Yeah.
You might have to be
So that might be worth having a look at Lightbot. But I don't know, I don't know how to do that.
Straight on the bus,
Yes.
My new art teacher is concerned that because the curriculum, sorry, I didn't speak to you about it briefly enough, because it sells to open the curriculum, where she's doing the right thing. And you said that we should do lots of things like even in the role play and lots of unplugged things. I'm just wondering what you would recommend in the way of programs. She's always got phonics programs up on the back of computers and that kind of thing. Is that enough? She's got Bbox. Is she doing it for early years?
I would do an awful lot in the role play area. I'd make sure that they have cameras, sound recording devices. I've used things like the phonics things on the whiteboard, but lots of devices where they're having to give commands. So things like I was talking earlier about progression in programming. When you think about a young child being able to turn on the TV and knowing that they're pushing a button on the TV, they're starting to understand that the device responds to a command. And older children starting to, about 3 years old, recognise that to turn on the TV because they push the button on the TV and then they push the red button on the remote control, and then they push number 7 and number 1. So they're recognising that there's a sequence of commands and they have to do them in the right order. So that is all early programming stuff. I mean, so to me, it's having lots of those devices that we're going to control in the early years environment, having some remote control toys, having some walkie-talkies, or have you seen the TTS? Easy phones, they're called, those kind of things, where they're having to push buttons to make things happen, and having things like the Bbox, so those kind of devices. I think with early years, it's much more than the computer. And if you want to send me an email, I'm happy to talk to your early years teacher via email.
Sarah, did you either of you guys want to add anything to that? You've got Key Stage 1.
No, I agree with that. I think you just don't think that it's just about getting the iPads and the computers out, because it's really not. You need to go back from that. Everything you said, programmable toys, multiple cars, and everything like that. You don't have to have a load of laptops. I think that's what Key Stage 1 teachers are worrying about, really. I agree.
Yes.
This is more digital literacy, e-safety than computing, but I've been looking at some schemes of work at the top end of Key Stage 2 that are using things like Google Apps and Dropbox. I was just wondering if you've had experience of using those, and from an e-safety username parental permission perspective, how you've gone about that and how successful it's been.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a Google domain for about 5-6 years in junior school, and we had it actually before. These days you can actually restrict where they can email to, but we had it before that. And actually, in some ways, I'm sort of pleased we did, because actually we trained the children, we talked about the right response and how we send an email, and also the sort of issues behind, you know, is it all right to send everybody in the domain an email if it's just saying hi? You know, and so there are all sorts of things that we ended up talking about as part of that. We had then when they actually switched on a little bit, which you can, we limited everybody, and then we gave people almost a test. Okay, said, look, you can have it unlimited once you can prove to us that actually you understand what's going on and that you can use it safely. And that worked really well, actually. The children were sort of thinking about those things. Personally, I think a Google domain is a really fantastic, pretty almost free thing to use. At the top end of the programming spectrum, there is also touch development. And actually, I'm not mentioning it here because it is mostly text programming, but it's fantastic and it works really well on iPads but it is more complex. The kids need to have done Scratch and other forms of programming before they get onto it. And also that links in with your Google domain too. The kids can have accounts on that.
And with Dropbox, are you happy keeping anything on there? It's just we do talk for writing and Core, and I've got in my year 1 class a lot of videos, and I've seen that some schools do QR codes in the book and then it links to the video. But I'd hate to put stuff in Dropbox and have someone hack it and photos of my children to go all over the place. I just don't know how safety-wise secure that is, or what type of information I should be putting in Dropbox or keeping on the network. I'm not very savvy.
I mean, we have blogs and we have class Twitter accounts as well, and there's photos of the children, not with names. So, I mean, I don't know how much your school lets photos of children out.
We have a blog and it's got photos without names.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think people will be more cautious about what they put on the blog because they'll think that it's open access, whereas if you're uploading to Dropbox, you think it's the same. My personal stance was I was always quite, anything where I was putting photographs or videos of children where it wasn't on a website, I'd be quite concerned about it being on someone else's server. So
that was my
we've recently gone over to Google for the whole school's emails to teachers and children, and we've done exactly the same. We started off limiting the children's accounts completely, and then bit by bit gradually increasing their privileges. And you can send them a spam email from a made-up thing and see if anyone does click on it, and sort of test to see whether they're aware of it, and almost trick them into it, and then talk about it later on and say, okay, so who did this? Well, our children do access that from home as well. It's a great tool for them to send in homework if they've been working on some Scratch program, rather than bringing in USB keys which can be unsafe, the rest of it. It's also having their own email addresses has opened up areas of e-safety which wouldn't have normally been there. For example, I've been teaching in Prezi, and to have a Prezi account, you sign up for it with an email, but everyone can see your Prezis, so they're open to the public. The only way to get them to be private is to use an education domain. Because they've all got addresses that are linked to our school, they can have private education accounts, so their Prezis are private. So it's almost opened up really some really helpful e-safety stuff for us. I think I agree with the Dropbox situation. I would only upload stuff to a cloud that I'd be happy putting on the website. So no names, only kids who have their consent forms checked to say, I'll just keep it.
Can I also say, with anything like that, I think you need to always go back to your acceptable use policy and make sure that that's really tight, because that's
just
the
line
line of
that as
defiance.
well at the moment, which is
And also, just one thing to add on that, we had a case recently where we're not having pictures with children's names, but when you have videos and they say children's names, suddenly I realised there were a couple of videos where perhaps children could be identified, so just want to know.
I mean, this is my killjoy bit. There is the whole European safe harbour legislation about, where stuff is held. And actually a lot of us, to some extent, ignore that. But you do have to, it's worth knowing that that is out there, and that is is the cloud data stored in Europe, okay, as opposed to, and the Google stuff isn't. Okay, now you choose whether you're going to go with that, but it is an issue, and it is something that's worth knowing about. But some people come up and say it eventually.
Over here first, right, and then back there.
Very quick, Prezi, we've got a problem in our federation with Prezi because it's got a user license and you've got to be 13 and you're not allowed to let people use your account if you're under 13. I just wonder what your views were on that.
Good point.
We've been trying to contact Prezi and ask them.
13 in the decimal system.
Is that definitely to the education side?
Yeah, we contacted Prezi, the government.
It's interesting. I mean, I'm not saying one way or the other, really, to be honest with you. But what I would say is that actually most American websites have 13 almost as a standard thing. Okay, so now I know people in Hampshire who would say, right, go for it and manage it safely, and I know people who said, no, I'm not going because I'm not going to break the 13 thing. It's a fun one.
They advertise it Prezi Yeti, and when we asked them about that, they said, this is for you to use your own presentations and show the children, but the children must not have access to your account or make their own presentations. And one of the reasons for that is because when they're using Prezi, they can get onto the sort of gallery, which will have some lessons.
Any other questions?
There's a question at the back.
Yeah, I have heard that there's cloud being developed specifically for education, and it's going to be hosted in Newport. So that takes out the
Surfing cloud.
it's like all the servers and everything will be sort of in the cloud, but like the servers are actually going to be in Newport in Wales, so it sort of takes out the sort of things that it's being developed specifically for education, so it takes the whole actual
Interesting to see what happens from that.
Have we got any last questions? Yes, on the back.
Back to the e-safety deal, I'm wondering, it feels like we're getting to the point where we need a risk assessment at the start, like we put it on a trip, we plan and do it properly. I feel like I need that for my school, something that any has and put some weight behind. So can I turn to this one, here's why I looked at it, and these are the risks, this is what I'm doing. Do it on a risk assessment basis. I feel really frustrated with so many things we've turned off, like the using Tumblr and all kinds of things. It feels like there's something we collectively help us sway our county tonight.
I think you're always going to get head teachers, who don't want YouTube and they don't want Twitter and they don't want Facebook because of their own personal feelings about it. That's what I've come across really. It's got to be sort of school decisions. I think it seems to be personalities of head teachers.
I think there's always a big variation into different schools. You find, I was in a school the other week that didn't know the password for their own Wi-Fi because it was that degree of lockdown. So yes, I do perhaps think there is a need for a common document or something like that, which might kind of things like that.
Can I just say that we're Dorset, we come under South West Grid, and South West Grid block. So it's taken out of our hands, basically.
We get blocked. I mean, loads of things are blocked up where I come from. But then we, as a school, the head teacher can make a decision about whether he's happy or she's happy to take the responsibility of it being unblocked. So they always go through that. So if I ring up and like I unblocked Twitter, and they said, well, you're sure about, the risks of Twitter. And your head teacher, has to be answerable really. If they're happy to be answerable, if something goes wrong, then so be it. But it must vary between authorities.
Hampshire's very similar in that you can unblock and take on the opportunity to unblock things yourself through flexible filtering. I think the best way to teach children to be safe is through educating them. However, that said, within my household, I filter the computer that my young children use, because they're not going to be going on things
that are inappropriate because they're making choices, they're 5 and 2, but their spelling appalling, and so they might accidentally. So for them, I think, yes, I agree that there is. I agree that teaching children is more important than this filtering. But I think when you're speaking with very young children, it's not because of some sort of defiance. So we can't educate them. We need to. There needs to be some balance.
Right. So, thank you very much, everyone. We've got, having stumbled into e-safety, we could now spend another couple of hours debating the pros and cons.
Can we just, actually, before everybody goes, can we just say a few thank yous? Right. Can I just say a really big thank you? Can I have everybody who's just done a seminar or taken part or helped out, these guys? Can you just stand up for a second? Anybody who's done it, fantastic. People at the back there.
Actually, as people are looking at us, we've had a watch that's been handed in. If anyone's lost a watch, like this.
Fantastic. Can we give all these people a big round of applause? A real big personal thanks to Les Carr, who's made a massive amount of extra work. He was up till 2:30 last night, printing out extra bits and pieces and putting up with my last minute changes. So, absolutely fantastic person. And actually, to be honest, when you're a professor of computer science, he could actually almost do anything really, but he chooses really to actually really do some good stuff with us in primary and really make that a focus. So, I really appreciate that, Les. Thank you very much.
You guys are going to deliver us the computer science. You can grab them by the time they're 7 or they're lost for something else. So thank you very much. I'd just like to briefly introduce you to Rob Blair, who's one of our students at the university, and he's acting as liaison between CAS and everything we do at the university. So he's helping to organise the CPD session. So if you want to know more about when the year 3 and 4 CPD sessions are, sorry?
Key stage 3 and 4.
Oh yeah, key stage 3 and 4. So, Rob can give you some more information. So thanks very much for everyone here. Thanks to all our student volunteers and helpers out there. There's now coffee and cake to see you on your way home.